Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I wanted to show some of the more interesting Apex Arena playoff matches that I noticed. A lot of these were recommended to me by other people on the Song of El Salia Discord. So I'm going to start off with this match between Maynard and Gaall, because Gaall actually uses a very unique character in his Apex box. And that character is Ashram. So, let's begin with the pick ban phase. And I'm just going to quickly go through it because, pretty standard pick bans in general, right? Both sides get rid of Langrisser first, then Zerda and Listel, pretty much. Or Hiei and Listel as the case may be. So Juggler was the tank that was played, Yusuke for Gaall, and Zerda for Maynard. Okay, and then Wilder and Tierras, right? So in that case, the reason for Tierras is because Liana and Wilder got banned. So he had the choice between Tierras and Iris, and he chose to play Tierras there. So then Yusuke and Angelina get banned, and Gaall plays Ashram. Right. Mr. Knight and Yulia get banned now, and Rachel gets played by Maynard. Ozil and Luna, Liana for Gaall, and Leon for Maynard. So this first battle is once again one of the battles where, because Maynard is not familiar with how Ashram works, he makes massive mistakes as a result. So Yusuke's faction buff benefits Ashram. And high stakes is activated. Now Maynard activates Miracle. And Gaall uses Regroup to self-heal Wilder. It's the interesting thing to see. Right? While that self-heal, and then Master of Ice is used here. So it's interesting to note, and since this Wilder is running Shrine Maidens, it's still fairly reasonably tough, The regroup for 5 times int heal did raise Wilder's hit points quite significantly. In any case, so this is where Maynard makes a massive mistake, right? Rachel uses her single target strike skill to strike Ashram. But because Ashram could revive by having this skill, it basically was a complete waste of an attack. So then, Ashram gets to attack Rachel and kill her off, since there's no guarding from Juggler at this point. And then the thing to note as well is, since Ashram had used one of the attack skills as well, once again, he has Counter-Strike and Decimate, so it has a revival chance yet again. So Ashram now gets to attack another target, this time choosing to hit Leon, and down goes Leon. And just like that, Maynard has no choice but to concede. So we move on to the second battle. So that was a complete loss on Maynard's side because he didn't understand Ashram. But like I said, with so many heroes, it's hard to understand every single hero in the game. Right? Every single SSR especially when you don't use them or have them built, it can be quite difficult. So let's just start the pick ban phase. Both sides once again ban Landius. And Juggler is played initially on both sides. This time around, Gaall chooses to ban Zerda instead of Hiei first. And actually chooses to play Listel. So a different pick ban strategy, so far anyways. So Waller is banned along with Joshua for Gaall, and Maynard gets to play Liana. So Yusuke and Bosel are banned, and Gaall plays Diglett here. Liana and Iris are now banned, so there is no more healer for Gaall. But Diglett is a healer, effectively, and Maynard plays Hiei. So now Waller, Luna bans, and Gaall plays Bosel to faction buff up Listel. Right. Finally, Luna and Miss Knight are banned. Maynard plays Angelina, and Gaall bans Rachel and Iris, so leaving just Leon and Tiaris as options. And Gaall chooses to play Ashram once again. Right? Makes a lot of sense because there is still a faction buff on Ashram from Bosel this time around, while Maynard plays Tiaris. So with this kind of party setup, I believe Maynard probably brings a faction buff on Juggler. Oh, he doesn't. Interesting. I thought that might have been a choice because of both Tiaris and Hiei. Once again, Ashram has Decimate and Counter-Strike with reinforcements for healing. And Diglett is here with Gospel, Sea of Miracles. Elven Aura is a bit of a surprise given that Juggler is around, right? And Triton. So that was a bit of a surprise. And Bosel brings 2 AoEs and the faction buff. So, both sides Jugglers advance initially. And Gospel is used as always to buff up Juggler to prevent debuffs on him. Here's the faction buff from Gaall. So this battle is kind of interesting. First, because we see Ashram yet again, and second, because of the way Angelina is used by Maynard. Okay. This is not a very common method of using Angelina, and this Angelina has Breath of Tides, Alternate, and Tidal Surge. So one AoE skill, the 3C, with Alternate and Tidal Surge. Right? It's much more common to see Angelina bringing, let's say, Breath of Tides, then an attack skill like Ram, or Breath of Tides, Tidal Surge, and then usually bringing like, let's say, an attack skill like Ram. Or if you don't bring Tidal Surge, you usually bring, let's say, Breath of Tides, Alternate, which is 1 point, and then the 2-cost AoE skill, her second one, which is Dragon Breath. So here, Listel gets hit twice, but doesn't die. And Juggler once again teleports forward. And now Hiei gets the act again applied. Sea of Miracles is used, and then due to Breeze activating, Diglett was able to get into range to attack. Okay, because she was able to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiles. So that was a massive luck element, right? That Diglett got Breeze to activate. But once again, it just shows how deadly Breeze can be on characters who act twice. And characters who act twice are Diglett and Hiei. Tidal Surge, Breath of Tides, knocking back the enemies a bit, freezing enemies, and then Angelina gets a single target strike off. But it doesn't do enough damage to kill, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Juggler charges forward and uses Beast Shock to lock down the enemy Ashram. That's the whole point of that Beast Shock. I'm not necessarily sure that was the best option per se. You know, could have used Sacred Beast him, but it's not a bad option either. So Angelina with his second attack kills off Deeplit in response. And is healing up massively due to healing rate and so on. So now, Master of Ice is used. And the Master of Ice actually did enough damage to kill off Ashram for the first time. Although he revives. So now, AoE with Black Hole. Okay. Luck-based element there, but it did pretty good. The one surprise to me is Listel is not being used for, let's say, Reaper's Touch yet. Right? For example, could have Reaper's Touch Tieris. In any case. Due to no silencing being applied onto the Sky Archer, it's able to dispel and remove most of those debuffs. And Tieris now attack blessings, while Listel does a blood dance. So, with the alternate and tidal surge, right, she can act 3 times to basically rapidly refresh her 3C skill. And now Reaper's Touch is used, and the target of choice was actually Juggler rather than Tieris. Breath of Tides. Alternate. Tidal Surge. Right. So basically, skill spamming to refresh. And act again to also rapidly try to refresh the 3C on Angelina. And once again, alternate, tidal surge, and now Breath of Tides. Which opens up Listel for a single target strike anyways. Oof. And because Juggler didn't act initially, Bozo's AoE killed off Liana. With that said, there weren't that many good options either for Maynard. If Juggler acts first, then Listel could apply the heal reversal debuff. And at that point, you know, Bozal also applied a cannot receive buffs effect on Juggler. So when Maynard just tried to activate Triton, it did absolutely nothing. And thus, Maynard had no choice but to retreat. Right? Because next turn, Juggler was dead. Without having Triton, there's no way for Juggler to survive. So those were two overall quite interesting matches, right? We especially got to see Ashram perform pretty well in matches. So then the next match though is where Ashram really fails. So let's just demonstrate this one. Alright, so for this second match, which is between, I'm going to call official Dism Elwyn Liana, because that's the name I know he used to have. And it's easier to pronounce than official Dism. So in any case, for the pick ban phase, it's going to start with a Juggler ban on Gaall's side, while Gaall chooses to ban healers of Elwyn Liana. So because he sees that Elwyn Liana has 3 healers, which is Iris, Liana, and Wowler. So that's why he's going for the healer ban. So Elwyn Liana plays Juggler first. So at this point, all 3 healers have been banned, and Gaall plays Langrisser. Right? So Elwyn Liana's ban strategy has been to first get rid of the tank, and then get rid of damage dealers. So Listel and Mystery Knight. Right? And right now, Leonhard is played. So now Joshua and Hiei are both banned, and Gaall plays Yusuke. So Gaall now loses Liana and Didlit, and Elwyn Liana plays Bozal, losing Yusuke and Zerida now. And Gaall plays Wowler, one of his healers, right? He had the choice of 4 healers, really. Right? There's Liana, there's Didlit, there's Iris, and there's Wowler. So now that 2 healers are banned, he could still play Wowler. Now Gaall loses Zerida and Luna, while Elwyn Liana plays Didlit on his side. I'm actually surprised Gaall did not ban Didlit earlier, right? But this might have been an unfamiliarity issue. Remember, once again, Didlit came very, very, very late. So it's really truly hard to say that, you know, people understood Didlit for these early playoff rounds. In any case, so Elwyn Liana now loses Leon and Luna, leaving just Mystery Knight and Estelle. And Gaall plays Ashram now. Okay. So at this point, Bozal and Joshua are banned, and so Mystery Knight is played on Elwyn Liana's side, and Gaall plays Yulia. Okay. I'm really not sure why Ashram was picked so early as well. But nonetheless, you know, these are just everyone has their own choice in terms of pick ban strategies. So, the initial turn, pretty much as always, is just to maneuver forward. And one thing that should be mentioned is the way Elwyn Liana is running Leonhard. Okay, Leonhard here has Fusion Dark Emperor Sword, Detect, and Instant Transfer. So Detect allows the AoEs of Leonhard to disable enemy passive skills as long as a crit hit occurs. So that will make a difference here. And another interesting thing about Elwyn Liana's party is he is running Stone Colossus, Lancer soldiers, because he predicted that Gaall would have a cavalry Landius with cavalry soldiers. So Lancer soldiers would take basically no damage at all from the Royal Cavalry. In addition, these Stone Colossus do have 15,000 hit points, which makes them quite tough even against, Yusuke, for example. Right? Enough to tank quite a lot of damage. So it's not necessarily a bad choice over Lobster Behemoths as a result. Okay. And Bozal here has the Earthquake, Black Hole, and Sleep, which is a much more standard Bozal than bringing, let's say, a faction buff and so on. Right? So not too much else needs to be said. Let's just continue. So, faction buff from Yusuke also affects Ashram. And at this point, Elwyn Liana teleports Leonhard forward. So this is where it gets interesting. Fusion Dark Emperor Sword, right? 3 characters got hit by a crit hit, and then an AoE, the second AoE, Sword Breath, once again crit hit a bunch of characters. So the result is, I think everybody got crit hit at least once, right? Everyone but Ashram got crit hit once. But keep in mind, even if you don't crit hit the character, there is still a 50% chance to trigger disable passives, right? So since the instant transfers Sword Breath is considered 1 AoE, and Fusion Dark Emperor Sword is considered 2nd, every single character of Gaall has disabled passives, in addition to cannot receive act again effects. So, with the passive disabled, Wilder could not be guarded. So, really, Leonhard had his choice of character to kill at that point. And Elwyn Liana chose to kill Wilder rather than one of the other characters. Not necessarily a bad option, especially since now that the healer is down, there's only the 3 turns of Desperate Prayer. And after that, there is no healing left at all. So at this point, I personally would have retreated back to buy as much time as possible for the Desperate Prayer to wear off. But Elwyn Liana chose to attack and started with Thunder Zone to AoE damage the enemies. And activate Sea of Miracles. By moving there, right, she actually got to trigger her Act Again effect. Right? I'm actually not quite sure how that one worked out. Oh, I see. Landius had +3 mobility. That's why. Because I was wondering, because this Tau was not in range of Ashram, but it was in range of Landius. So the Act Again retreats. And yes, actually, Elwyn Liana is retreating initially to try to buy time. Right? So Gospel is now used on Juggler, because now with the Gospel, Juggler can Sacred Beast him and still have Gospel on him after he does this AoE strike. So this AoE, this AoE combined with the previous AoE of Thunder Zone from Night of Mysteries did kill off Ashram once, right? And it severely damaged Yulia, although didn't kill her. Landis is severely damaged, and Yusuke, he just activates his Erupt state. Now, this is the interesting part. Ashram, using one of his attack skills, was able to kill off Night of Mysteries. And this, in large part, is also because Ashram does attack first as long as he has higher attack than the enemy, right? So the Desperate Prayer healed him up, and with Counter Strike doing 1.7 times damage and having Ragnarok, that was enough damage to one-shot Mystery Knight. Or at least one-shot Elwyn Liana's Mystery Knight. So, in response, Sleep is used on Ashram. And what really helped here is this Sleep did apply cannot use passive skills on Ashram. Okay. Because passives were disabled, his revival effect has been disabled too, right? the only reason he revives is because of because of this passive, right? Decimate's passive is what triggers his revival. So that's why there's no longer a revive icon here on Ashram. So Juggler gets hit by Dark Tinker, but due to the Gospel, the Dark Tinker does nothing. Right? There's no cannot be healed effect on Juggler. So now, Bozal tosses out a black hole, right? Does enough damage to wipe out Yulia, who is already heavily damaged, and Landius is put into a very near-death state. Okay. Yusuke tries to charge forward and attack Diglett, and unfortunately, Diglett was left with a tiny bit of hit points. And due to that tiny bit of hit points, down goes Ashram to Diglett's strike of Elven Aura. So, it was unfortunate, but let's just go back a little. The reason though is because for this particular attack, Yusuke, first of all, no longer had Dark Tinker, right? Because Dark Tinker was already used on Juggler. So that was the first, that was one reason why Diglett survived. Another reason is that this Yusuke, actually the attack is lower than you would expect. 1327 attack is actually significantly lower than some of the attack values I've seen on other Yusukes, right? For example, a lot of top tier Yusuke seems to have like 1400 plus and so on. So there is a lack of attack on this Yusuke, so it does need better enchants. And as a result, but once again, as a result of all of this, Diglett survives and gets to take out the Ashram who had disabled passives. So let's just go back to those two steps. Right? So at this point, battle really is over. Gaall really doesn't have any real characters left alive. There's Yusuke and there's Landius against Juggler, Diglett, and Bozal. So Gaall concedes. Right? So there we saw we basically pretty much saw the power of disabled passives in this fight, especially disabled passives applied onto Ashram. Okay. So the first match had Ashram dominate because he could keep reviving, but the second match, because disabled passives was applied onto him, he was very easily killed. So now, pick ban again. So Gaall loses Lestel here, and chooses to ban Elwyn Liana's Juggler. Gaall plays Juggler, loses Zerda and Yusuke now. While Elwyn Liana plays Estelle, because that is Elwyn Liana's other tank, right? He doesn't use Landius, he uses Estelle. So, Hiei, Zerda, Assassins are banned, and Gaall plays Bozal. Diglett, Liana banned, and Bozal is played on Elwyn Liana's side. So Leonhard and Yusuke are now banned, and Gaall plays Waller. Right. So in a lot of ways, you can kind of see that I think Gaall is mostly eliminating a lot of the characters that Elwyn Liana previously used in the previous battle. Right. Juggler, for example, Leonhard, for example. So next, Gaall loses Ashram now and Luna, so no more Ashram. And Elwyn Liana gets to play Diglett yet again. Mystery Knight and Luna are now banned. And Gaall plays his own Mystery Knight. And then finally, Landius and Iris are banned. And Elwyn Liana plays Leon. Okay. So Liana, Iris are banned, leaving just Waller and Joshua. And so Gaall plays his own Joshua, while Elwyn Liana plays Waller. And here we go. So this battle, from what I recall, is much more standard overall. Okay. Although we get to see we still get to see a few interesting factors. So Estelle's 3C, providing everybody +1 mobility. And what we get to see as well is Leon, right, is actually bringing Bone Dinos instead of Angels, because Bone Dinos offer the maximum attack value, right? Plus 45% attack, whereas Angels is just plus 20. Not too much else needs to be said here. Elwyn Leanna's Bozal continues to have Earthquake, Black Hole, and Sleep. Gaall's Bozal continues to have Dark Waltz, Black Hole, and Earthquake, which is very questionable to me. I don't mind him having Dark Waltz, although I don't think he needs it since he's not buffing anyone else, right? But he really should bring Sleep. Like, my general opinion is, if you have someone else to buff, yeah, Bozal should bring his Dark Waltz. If he doesn't have anyone to buff, you might as well just bring the 2 AoEs along with Sleep, the way Elwyn Leanna is using it. So, kind of a skill selection error on Gaall's side there. Right. And finally, Gaall chooses to bring Strengthen on Waller, while Elwyn Leanna brings Regroup and Dispel. Right? So one side has Tactical Retreat, one side has Dispel. They chose different skills other than high stakes, basically. So Strengthen is because Mystery Knight has no faction buff, right? And Dispel is because Elwyn Leanna felt that he needed Dispel to remove the debuffs from Bozal. So Gospel is initially used, and used on Bozal, which is an interesting choice. And now, High Stakes is used from Waller. And this is an interesting factor as well, okay? So, the Knight of Mysteries had Breeze activate on her, okay? And it was only after Breeze activated that Waller used High Stakes, which was a massive mistake because of Thunder Zone. Now, this only happened because Breeze activated on Mystery Knight. But having seen Breeze activate, Elwyn Leanna should not have activated High Stakes there, because Thunder Zone hits 3 circles or 3 rings around her. So in other words, this is the first ring, this is the second ring, and then the third ring was all the way to where Waller was, right? So it's a massive AoE effect, right? 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 rings. It hits like all the way here. And due to High Stakes having been activated, Thunder Zone did the damage needed to kill off Waller, just like that. And then due to Backtrack, Knight of Mysteries could run all the way back. So just like that, Gaall got a free kill. So, Elwyn Leanna counters with Deedlit charging forward and using Elven Aura to kill off Knight of Mysteries. So this shows just how much mobility really Deedlit has. You know, that she's able to move forward, act again, and then get the killing blow in. So let's just go back quickly. I believe though that she had Breeze activate as well. Yeah. So that's why she could move that far, right? Because she had 5 mobility initially to run forward before the attack. Now next, Gaall starts things off with Sacred Beast Hymn to just primarily do AoE damage to Deedlit, which ended up being a bit of a mistake because Juggler was placed in range of the sleep attack of Bozal, right? If Gaall had placed, let's say, Juggler here or over here, then Bozal could not have put this Juggler to sleep. Nonetheless, here's an interesting factor. Look at this. Joshua with Phantom Raid was able to kill off both Bozal and Deedlit. And this is a Bozal with 11,000 hit points. Okay? The reason Joshua was able to do 11,000 damage with an AoE attack with Phantom Raid, really, is because Gaall chose to bring Ruthless. And Ruthless has a passive of increasing crit damage by 20%. Okay? Very interesting choice. Most people usually bring Dark Demise with Phantom Raid, right? But here, Gaall chose to bring Ruthless to increase the damage output. So once again, Phantom Raid, 16,021 damage, and then the fixed damage hit after combat for 2 times attack value was enough to finish off Bozal, as well as, well, Deedlit would have absolutely died, but Bozal should not have, right? And it was all because of the Ruthless effect that Bozal died. So that was a very, very interesting skill selection choice that made a difference. In response, Elwyn Liana now has Leon come charging forward. And due to Juggler being put to sleep, Bozal gets killed. Blue Dragon Strike, random teleportations, AoE heal from Juggler. And Gaall chooses to teleport characters back with Tactical Retreat. So that teleport definitely helped, because otherwise Estelle would have been able to potentially toss out the AoE, like Phoenix Wave, to wipe out characters, right? Let's just go back quickly a few steps, right? If Joshua was still here, Estelle could have very easily killed Joshua, right? By just running up and either single target, really just by single target strike, Joshua would have died. But due to Wilder's Tactical Retreat, Joshua was pulled out of the danger range, and thus Estelle had no attack. And due to Joshua surviving, this is another interesting situation. Once again, because of Ruthless increasing crit damage by 20%, Joshua did extra damage to Leon and was able to kill off this Leon with a regular attack, right? No skills required, just single target strike, and the crit hit damage plus Dark Initiate was enough to kill. And here, Joshua actually survived the attack from Estelle. And the reason for that was also due to Ruthless. Okay? Ruthless, after you deal crit damage in battle, all damage taken is decreased by 30%. So, as a result of the 30% damage decrease, Joshua took much less damage than he should have from Estelle, and was able to survive the attack from Estelle. And then at this point, 3 against 1, it's over. Especially the interesting part though is I actually do wonder if Elwyn Liana had used the Phoenix Wave attack there, right? I think Wilder and Joshua would have died to the AoE strike. Then it would have been Estelle against Juggler. So in some ways that battle could have still been maybe played out. I don't know. It would have been interesting to see. But I think Elwyn Liana felt that Estelle couldn't beat Juggler one-on-one and just surrendered there. So this is the third and final match. And both sides banned Juggler this time around. And Elwyn Liana changes strategies, choosing to play Leonhard first. Right. Joshua and Iris are now banned. And Gaall plays Landius. So Mystery Knight and Yusuke. The hide, after losing to Mystery Knight, Elwyn Liana bans, Juggler and Mystery Knight, who are part of the second round. Right? So Elwyn Liana now plays Leon, clearly going for an assault team. Luna and Bozal are now banned here. And Gaall plays Lestel. Interesting. So Liana and Deedlit are now banned on Gaall's side. And Elwyn Liana plays Yusuke. So there is now a faction buff for Leonhard. Right? And then Hiei and Zerda are banned. Actually, I should also say, Leon, as long as Leon brings the Empire faction buff, that also works as a faction buff for Leonhard. But having Yusuke here as well, just, you know, it means Leon does not have to bring his own faction buff. So let's move on. So what? Zerda and Hiei have been banned, the two assassins, and Gaall plays Waller, the healer, right? So Gaall loses Joshua and Luna, and Elwyn Liana plays Estelle, right? Mystery Knight and Deedlit for one side, Gaall plays Bozel. So Ashram and Zerda now get banned, and Elwyn Liana ends up with Liana. So ultimately, even though initially Elwyn Liana went for the assault strategy, he ultimately still ended up with a tank and healer. So 3 attackers, a tank, and a healer. On Gaall's side, he went for the tank, then Lestel, then healer, Bozel, and now he only has a choice of Yulia or Iris, which isn't really a great selection. And so Gaall chose to bring Iris, who can teleport characters, I suppose. Yeah. As I said, this is not really a good selection either way. But I personally probably might have gone Yulia rather than Iris. Ultimately, each to their own, right? So, battle begins. Estelle starts with Enduring Hope to buff everyone's mobility. So, interesting point is this Yusuke actually brought Skeleton Knights instead of Zealots. Not too common of a soldier choice over Zealots. And Gaall has changed up the Strengthen to regroup on Wyler. No. Bozel now is bringing the faction buff, Black Hole and Sleep combo, which I still think is questionable. I still think Dark Waltz should be replaced with Earthquake. And Iris has Shield. That's probably... Okay, I think I know why Iris was chosen. That's exactly why. Shield. Because Gaall was worried about the Dark Tincture applying unable to receive healing for 2 turns onto Landius. With Iris applying shield on Landius, he can ignore that. So that explains it. Okay, so let's continue. So Liana charges forward, casts the Summon Sky Archer skill. Interesting choice of bringing the Summon Sky Archer instead of, let's say, Prayer. But I think it's because, once again, Elwyn Liana wants to be able to dispel the debuffs, let's say Blood Dances or Mindboard debuffs or Bozel debuffs. So it's actually a very reasonable option in this kind of situation. Alright, so faction buff. And overall, Elwyn Liana is just moving forward initially, not actually teleporting in yet. So, Gaall chooses to have Lestel use the Reaper's Touch on Leon, which was actually a very questionable move in my opinion, because Leon can just retreat back, as he just did. Right. And so, for several turns at least, Lestel can no longer use Reaper's Touch. Right? It has the 3-turn cooldown. So it was used on turn 1. So turn 2 it's down, turn 3 it's down, turn 4 it's down. So it can't actually be used again until turn 5, which is actually quite long, right? Shield on Landius for the immunity to Dark Tincture. And Elwyn Liana is moving forward, seizing terrain while Gaall continues to hang back. Right. So now Landius comes moving up, and at this point, Leonhard is teleported forward. Okay, so Wyler activates Ice Waves. which I actually think was a bit of a questionable move, given that Leonhard can dispel buffs, right? 2 buffs dispelled from Fusion Dark Emperor Sword, and then potentially more buffs from Demon Slayer. You know. In any case, though. So, Gaall, because there is no Reaper's Touch anymore, chooses to use Mind Bore on Leonhard to apply a heal reversal effect onto him. And this is where the mobility increase of Estelle came into play, okay? Because Liana doesn't just have 3 mobility, she actually has 4 here. If it was 3, she could only move here, then she wouldn't be able to do anything for Leonhard. But due to 4 mobility, she was able to move far enough to dispel 2 debuffs on Leonhard. And by dispelling those, Leonhard no longer had to worry about the heal reversal or anything like that. So that really helped Leonhard just now. And so Bozal gets teleported forward, and here is where a second problem occurs, right? Leonhard has immunity to all debuffs due to Liana's Gospel. So Gaall uses a black hole attack on Leonhard, right? Because he can't put him to sleep after all. The sleep at most would have dispelled some buffs. Nonetheless, I felt that Bozal should have used sleep on Leonhard here. Yes, you would not have killed him, but you could have dispelled buffs, right? For example, if you dispelled the sword breath, that would have helped. Stuff like that. So in any case, Leonhard charges up, Fusion Dark Emperor Sword, right? Buff dispelling, AoE damage, and then act again, right? And the thing there is, with the buff dispel, Landius actually lost his 2 guard range buff. So this Landius currently only has 1 guard range. So Leonhard really should kill Bozal at this point, but actually Leonhard went after Iris and didn't do enough damage. Right. So, as a result of the Bolt Rangers, Iris survives. So in some ways you could say that was a bad attack choice. But I should also mention, you know, for example, Iris no longer had the heal before combat effect, so that's actually probably why Leonhard chose to attack Iris, because she lost that buff, right? She lost the high stakes buff. But despite that, Bolt Rangers 50% damage reduction, it was enough for Iris to survive. And now Leon, Chivalry, attack on Listel. Does not do enough damage to Listel to kill her, but Blue Dragon Strike was enough to finish her off. Okay. So, Leon, with the Blue Dragon Strike, was actually able to one-shot this Listel. And it's very interesting because this Listel was actually at full hit points, right? So the only reason she died should have been either she was A, missing last rites, or B, she just doesn't have enough defense. You know? I'm not sure Leon should normally one-shot Listel in this kind of situation, right? Given that she was at full hit points with faction buff. So I think overall this was an enchant issue for Gaall, right? There was not enough defense on Listel. She needed higher defense enchants, and she didn't have that. Alright, so Landius got teleported forward, and Landius moves up to attack and kill off the enemy here. However, that does trigger buffs on Yusuke, and Yusuke with Dark Tinker could attack Bozal at 3 range and kill off Bozal very easily. Right. And then, since that triggered Odin's Battle Helm, Landius loses more buffs. And at that point, Gaall concedes. Both attackers for Gaall were killed, right? So all Gaall had was an extremely ahead Landius, and then 2 healers in the back, which could not be protected. So the battle was definitely over. But we got to see a lot of unique things come out in this game. Ruthless being used on Joshua, for example. Disabling passives, causing Ashram to not be able to revive. Stuff like that. Alright, so covering these 2 matches actually took 50 minutes, so I'm going to end this video here. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video interesting or useful to you. And on that note, Nitro out.